Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of State of Decay 2. So I played it on the Xbox One because, you know, it's an Xbox One game. So let's just start off by saying there isn't a real story per se. It's the story of you forming a community and surviving the zombie apocalypse and how you interact with other survivors in the world. Okay, so let's move on to the audio, which I actually felt was pretty good in this game. I felt the sound effects were very well done for letting you know when zombies were around and how close they were, etc. Because, you know, surviving a zombie apocalypse, that's pretty important. The voiceover work is never outstanding, but it's never bad. It works very well, though, for what the game is. There isn't a ton of music, but when there is music, it's good and it works with the game. Then you've got the ambient sound effects, which do a good job immersing you in the world at night and during the day. As for the gameplay, this is an open-world survival game. So there's a good amount of exploration and gathering resources because, you know, that's what survival games are. And interacting with other survivors is key. Now there are a few complaints though I do have with this game. Specifically, nighttime seems to last far longer than the day for some reason. Maybe I'm just crazy, but it doesn't seem right. It seems like the nighttime is at least as long as the day, which always feels weird in the game. Also, the neighbors and the people who contact you via radio for quests, they can be really annoying because they're very impatient and they get very salty. And by that I mean they'll call you a few times, but you have so many other things to do that you don't always have time to help them. And while some of them are just like, okay, whatever, and move along, others get violent and dangerous, and then you have to deal with dangerous humans as well as zombies. And that gets really frustrating because I feel like they don't necessarily give you the time required because, like I said, there are so many other things you need to do to maintain your own community. You've got to go find infestations and deal with those. You've got to find resources. You've got to find new survivors, etc. Things just happen that don't necessarily allow you to help out these other groups, and then they get butthurt. Things I did like about the gameplay though were like the stealth elements, because sneaking around dealing with zombies, it can be much easier than just trying to go balls to the wall and beat them up. But then there are things that I don't like. Specifically, I did not like the weapon mechanics. By that I mean repairing them and breaking them down, etc. It just doesn't make sense. You can't easily do it. You have to dump them into the main inventory, repair them in there, and then put them back on your character. Which I just found annoying because it's not the best way to do it. It would make sense if you had to go to like a workbench or a workshop. I have a workbench at a workshop in the game, and that's not how you repair weapons. It's stupid to not do it that way. One thing I will say though, compared to other survival games, I did enjoy that it's still easier to jump into because I still feel like most survival games are just too daunting. I mean, eventually the rewards are there, but it's just such a drag and all the minutia to get to that point, so I enjoy games that kind of dumb it down, essentially. As for the controls work well enough for the most part. There are times where, weirdly enough, you'll be pushing forward, your camera will be facing that way, and your character's going that way. Can be a bit of a problem because it has led me to get spotted by zombies once or twice. But it also hasn't happened too frequently and in enough times that it's really caused me any major issues. That being said though, apart from that, the controls work well. I didn't find a lot of times where I pressed a button or pushed the joystick and it didn't work. It just may have worked weirdly. Not for the buttons, but for the joystick thing. I do think they could have attached sprint to a different function on the controller, but hey, whatever, I'll survive. Overall, I think the controls work well for the game. Lastly, the graphics. The graphics in this game are dated. There's a decent number of zombie models and whatnot, and the world looks okay, but it doesn't look as good as it could nowadays. It looks fine for a non-AAA title, but I admittedly do wish it could look better. I feel like whenever the next generation comes around, if we get a new State of Decay then, like State of Decay 3, it will look like what State of Decay 2 should actually look like. But overall, the graphics didn't ruin anything for me. So to wrap this up, I actually enjoyed this game well enough. I do wish there was a bit more story and that people weren't so useless in the communities. I mean, the AI specifically. There are also a few things where I feel like maybe having a co-op partner might solve that issue with, like, you can go do one thing for one AI and they can go do another for another AI kind of situation. But overall, the single player works well. The co-op was fun enough, but it didn't really change much for me. So I will say I'm glad this game is not a full price title, because if it was full price, I wouldn't really recommend it. but since it is a little knocked off, I'm okay with the price. I think it's an enjoyable game, and if you're looking for something that's a survival game but it's not an overly daunting task to get into it, well then I think this is a fun game to play. So yeah, recommended. Okay, so in the comments below, why don't you tell me what your favorite special infected is from any zombie game? And as always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share, subscribe. Have a good one.